Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am Starry and I'm here yet again to react to the Lord of the Rings. This is the behind the scenes. This is disc number 2 to the appendices. And we're just going to go ahead and get into it. Thank you so much for joining me. If you enjoyed this video, then please do not hesitate to like, comment, subscribe, and share. All the good stuff. Every gesture of support helps us out here on YouTube, okay? All right, let's go ahead and get into this video. Everybody relax and let's flow.
Welcome to the second disc of the appendices.
Hi,
This
Frodo.
disc covers everything from the beginning of the filming process until after the film was released. Keep in mind that there's all sorts of other things to explore on this disc, including pictures, stills, artwork, all kinds of goodies.
Okay.
So enjoy.
Thank you. I will enjoy. Here we go. The Fellowship of the Cast. All right.
One of the most nervous aspects of the cast coming together was the fact that they'd never met each other before. That, you know, we'd gone around the world and we'd picked the best people for each of the roles individually. Met them, auditioned them,
Right,
whatever.
they never met each other
Offered them the
before.
role,
Okay.
they'd accepted the role. We were happy. But the unknown
anybody,
thing was that none of them had
declined the
worked
role.
together before. None of them,
A role.
most of them had never even met each other before. So there was a very nervous moment when, when suddenly we're in New Zealand 6 weeks out from the shoot and everybody starts getting off the plane.
I just left my family behind and my friends and my life, and I was like feeling a little bit teary, you know, at the idea of leaving everything behind and my dog and everything. And
I see this guy, you know, and I thought, he looks elf-like.
and
looks elf-like.
this wee
What?
fella walked over and he said,
You wouldn't be Orlando Bloom, would you? He said, Billy!
and I was like, oh my God, you're a hobbit, and we just had this huge embrace.
And it was my birthday as
Oh
well.
my God. You're
I'd just
hungry.
turned 30 that day. So we had champagne on the flight.
He was
And
30?
then when we got to LA, because of the time difference, it was my birthday again. So we had more champagne, you know, because it's the 28th again.
That's so
Pete had
funny.
done something very
I love that.
intelligent, whereby at the start of filming it was the full hobbits for about 2 months, primarily just us, no one else.
And I really
Oh.
hoped that those 4 guys would bond. Because one, it would make the 15 months go a lot quicker if everybody was friendly and got along. But also for the film, I knew that, you know, having the hobbits sort of feeling like they really were connecting was something that was important for the movie.
So I didn't know anyone, and there's always that fear of going to a new place and uncharted territory.
I was there for best part of a year. So it was my life for a year, totally away from home. Just
A whole
making
year?
new friends.
It's such an adventure. You don't know who anyone is. Everybody's trying to find their feet and interact and try and
Okay.
be sociable. And that was one of the great things, that these friendships formed with the unlikeliest of people.
It was a real kind of Boy Scout kind of, year and a half. It was men together.
then
I
they
mean,
had-
every so often
they were there
Liv
for a
would
year
be
and a
there,
half.
and Kate Blanchett would be there, which was such an amazing thing because you've got these 2 gorgeous women who got so much attention from us guys because, we adored them so much.
Well, I remember being really nervous because I felt like a lot of the emphasis, because it was all the boys, was on them meeting me in a way, and I was so nervous to meet them. And when I think about how I saw them, it's completely different to how I see them now, but they're all so cute.
And it was this amazing kind of coming together. Here we are. We're all finally
Oh,
here.
I
We're
love
almost all of us.
this.
And we're going to set out on this journey.
Talking about
And,
their
it was this
bonding.
incredible excitement and anticipation for what we were about to do together.
Off screen. Yeah.
One of the amazing things about Elijah, I think, is he can sleep anywhere at any time. I mean, I've seen him do it. And, like, if they don't go back to him for, like, 15 minutes, he'll just be sitting there like that. Like, for 15 minutes. And then someone will go, Elijah, yep, scene, right. And he goes. It's an
Wow.
incredible thing that he's got. I mean, he must have been so tired during that shoot. Because, you know, there was times when we had time off. Elijah pretty much had no time off, ever.
I've seen
Yeah, I
him fall
can
down
imagine.
3 sets of staircases. Like, and then just get up and go, just walk up. That is an incredible gift, man. He's like, like Chaplin. I sort of appointed myself as his kind of minder. I wanted to look after him and make sure that he was okay. He kept locking his keys in his apartment, and he'd leave and he couldn't get back in. And I was like, well, don't worry, I'll take care of it. And I would arrange, to have a locksmith brought out there, and 45 minutes later, I bring him his keys, and Elijah, here's your keys. And he was like, oh, wow, great, thanks, thanks for taking care of it.
That
I
was
saw the
nice.
need
You
for
didn't have
life
to
to
do
imitate
that.
art. Sam needed to look after Frodo as his sort of primary identity. As the Fellowship started to coalesce, that was the job I carved out for myself.
Okay.
John Astin is just a very cool man. He had a different experience than the rest of us hobbits because he's got a family, of course. He was there with his wife Christine and his beautiful daughter Ali, who we were all uncles to her at the end, you know.
Oh,
Sean
he
is
had
a
his
very
family
kind
there?
of untrusting individual when it comes to safety. He's going to hate me for saying this, but it's true. He always had to check out everybody else's job and make sure that they were doing their job properly because he didn't necessarily trust that they had it all under control. And there was one such instance when we were in a helicopter and we were in a kind of treacherous mountain area.
Elijah, Billy, and I were just having so much fun because we were in helicopters, and we were saying to the guy, "Could you try and flip over, or could you do some banks?" And they're talking and laughing and scratching, and I can see that like all three helicopters are making their way in, and ours is the first one to go or second one to go. And I'm like, "You guys, shut up!" They're talking. They're like, "Sean, they know what they're doing. They're safe." And I'm like, "Man, this is not good." And Sean immediately starts like drilling the pilot of the helicopter. Like, all right, do you know that you've got like two guys behind you waiting to come in? Do you know? Are you cool to like take off? And asking him all of these kind of safety questions that I'm sure this pilot had completely under control. And there was also a point where Elijah and I and Billy and Sean had been dropped off at lower altitude, and we were there for about half an hour waiting for a helicopter to pick us up. And Sean was about 100 yards away from us, and he was directing helicopters into land.
You see, you got two behind you.
Come on. Come on in. Waving to the helicopter guy, pointing out where the other guys were, and they were waving me, and the hobbits were all making fun of me because I was like trying to be Mr. Involved.
That's funny. Yeah,
Billy
I
was
like
a
that.
unique guy. I'm so just blessed to have met him.
Dom's an idiot. No, Dom's great. I was probably closest with Dom because we had so much stuff together.
Yeah, their scenes were all together pretty much.
Done and done.
I was involved in a close near-death experience, really. It was kind of traumatic. We were filming this scene where the hobbits run to the Brandywine Bridge and get on the ferry.
Okay, yeah. I remember
Rehearsing, running very fast as we could down this wooden bridge, and then jumping onto the ferry.
And then in one of the times, as we ran down to get to the ferry, Dom got a wooden splinter through his foot.
An amazingly tough splinter, I think probably made of titanium.
You think somebody cut his leg off?
Oh,
The sweat was pouring off him.
Like every time I put pressure on my foot, it was just an excruciating.
It was just he said a near-death
pain,
experience.
like,
It was just a
I thought he
splinter.
was going to pass out at one point, and everybody thought it was something really, really kind of serious.
It's going to be like this big, and I'm going to get it framed.
And they take out this tiny splinter, and I was like, I cannot believe you made that fuss over that splinter.
I kept it. I kept the splinter. Still got it.
So after that, whenever Dom did something, he'd
Thought it was
stop
something
sweating.
serious.
If anything happened, I'd say, "Splinter, are you okay?" And he'd be like,
We had a hiccup in the casting process because another actor had been cast in the role of Aragorn, and we just came to a realization that we had cast the role a little too young. It caused us a lot of headaches because we were now shooting the film. We couldn't stop shooting it, and we only had a very limited number of days that we could shoot without the character Aragorn.
I got a phone call at home. Saying, you want to get on a plane tomorrow? We go to New Zealand.
What?
And I said, for what? And then they said, the Lord of the Rings.
I knew that this was a very, very important conversation, that he'd never met me before, he didn't know who I was, I never met him,
What
I'd never
in
been
the
to New
world?
Zealand before. He hadn't read the Lord of the Rings.
Oh my
I just said, well,
God.
can I think about it for a minute? He said, well, not very long. You have till this afternoon.
And we somehow had to tried to persuade him.
Oh my God, he hadn't even read the
to
Lord
take
of the
this
Rings.
role because we thought he would be really great, and we badly wanted him now in this movie. You know, we were in a real bind.
I wonder who was the original person they
and my
had.
son was with me there. He says, "What was that about? What was that, Lord of the Rings?" I said, "Yeah, they're making a movie out of it." And he knew the story. You know, I didn't.
And I know that the person we really have to thank
Is his
for
son?
persuading Viggo was his son, Henry.
His son Henry.
Because Henry was about,
Look at that.
I think he was about 11 or 12 years old at
so
that time. And he
Viggo
was a
didn't
huge
even know.
fan of
Wow.
The Lord of the Rings, and absolutely was beside himself when he thought that his dad could get to play Aragorn.
So it was nice to have his blessing, you know what I mean?
Most times that you're with Viggo, something amazing is not too far behind. He's like an old-fashioned movie star in my eyes, you know.
Being the natural leader of this group of actors in the Fellowship came very easily to him.
Well, he was always doing things like, you know, like he'd get all the Kieran, you know, and pretend to throw him over the edge of the mountain.
Well, you can see the wildness in his eyes. He goes slightly mental. Something kind of clicks.
And then he just rugby tackled me for some reason, you know, really like bang. Oh, I wondered what would hit me, you know. He just lives for the moment, it seems. He lives for life.
Viggo is an incredible photographer, and he took a lot of photographs throughout the whole time. And, you know, you sit at your little makeup station and there's a mirror in front of you, and he just from the beginning, day one, started to, you know, make a collage all around the outsides of the mirror. And by the end of the shoot, there was no mirror left.
They were overlapping. It was full of pictures, and then it became another layer and another layer.
It's all the way up on the ceiling and wrapping around behind and trickling onto our mirrors. And he was thinking of, like, you know, buying the bus and taking it with him because it was such a brilliant collage of memories and moments.
He doesn't just act the character. He has to somehow become part of the character. He and the character have to blend. And at the end of the day, shooting, where he'd carry his sword and he'd put it by the table as he was eating. He wouldn't drive anywhere in his car without the sword being in the back seat.
That was on the way out of a Sunday rehearsal. When I was walking out of the gym,
think about what they do when the cameras are off.
And everyone goes, waving
I guess
sword
they
around,
do have
trying to
normal
keep a
lives
mental
that they
picture of
get
what
back
we'd just
to.
done. So I guess walking down the street down to where my car was parked on a Sunday afternoon. Waving the sword around.
They had
like,
Sundays off?
Yeah, it was a desperate
They weren't
Rasputin
filming?
character to them, probably.
I would think they had to film
Cars
every
come
single
first
day.
now. I mean, there'd been some report.
The interesting mix that John put on the thing was that he's not a big fan of rehearsing too much for fight scenes. And his method would be to say to the stunt guys, "How many of you are coming towards me?" And they'd say 6, and he'd say, "Okay, who's first?" And the guy would go, "I'm first." And he'd go, "Okay, you come at me, and I'll hit you with my axe, and then you come, and I'll hit you, and you come, and he would just take these guys out." And the stunt guys would, tough guys, big tough guys that wear a lot of armor. And they'd say, "Okay, John, try and miss us, but if you do hit us, it's not a problem. We don't mind." He would hit every single one of them. Someone would come at him, and he'd just bang, bang, bang. And the stuff that they got of John fighting is brilliant because it's real. The stunt guys are absolutely terrified. They're just running away from this guy. As you can see, the shots that you're getting are incredible. He just looks on fire, but that is because John was wearing a prosthetic that limited his vision to this because he had, prosthetic skin. And his eyes were swollen because he was allergic to the prosthetic, so they were slightly shut. And he had no kind of, sideway vision.
I mean, at times you just want to rip the damn stuff off and just scratch.
How do you keep that on
this
all
topical
day?
eczema, which meant basically every time the upper and lower eyelids were attached, I lost all the skin in this area. It was like a skin.
How did he do that?
And within hours then it would swell, and it would turn sort of lobster pink, and then...
How did he make it through?
It would just be covered with lymph.
John Rhys Davies took us to a restaurant. "I think I will order the food for tonight." And we said, "Oh, okay, on you go, John," and we were all having a conversation, and the waitress came over. And John ordered, food that would probably have fed maybe 35, 40 people, and there were about 12 of us. You know, he just said, we'll have 9 lobster and 15 shrimp, 12 red snapper, 15 filet mignons, and some grilled mushrooms. I'll have 12 onions and wild boar, and, you know, all this kind of stuff, just like pheasants and grouse. Do you have partridge? Bring the partridge, all that kind of stuff. And
one of the training regimes that we set up for our actors when they first arrived in New Zealand was boat handling skills, and I think that most of their training revolved around trying to make each other sink.
Let us say that the blame was placed on the dwarf.
He's a huge guy, man. He's 3 times the size of me, and his weight was just like, he just needed to like a tiny little moment of the weight, and we were lost.
But of another boating accident, which also involved the elf.
I can't believe that John would say that was my fault. Did he really say it was my fault? He's unbelievable, man.
I wasn't very good at the canoes, really. I mean, I could never sort of get that sense to put it all that way, to do a left and all that lot, and I just kept getting lost and having to be towed back in. And Orlando was quite good. He practiced a lot more than I had, and he was like, sort of, you know, very graceful and but
it's so good to see them smiling.
So anytime I could give his canoe a little knock with my oar, I would do, you know. So it's been sent round the wrong way. And it's actually, I can't.
I love Orly. I mean, I would pick on him a lot just because I could. I had this thing that I refused to drive when we were there because it was on the left side, and I'm a little dyslexic, and I was just terrified. So Orlando lived really close to me, and I would make him drive me around everywhere, and we would spend a lot of time together. And I guess I wanted to watch over him, and you know, it was his first movie, and that could really mess with some people's heads, going from being a student in film school to being one of the stars of such an enormous film. And
he's a lively guy, and he's a really good guy, got a good heart. And but we're very different in some ways. I'm from up north, he's from down south, and I call him a southern softy, and he calls me a northern nasty.
John Bean, he was a real brother in arms, story-wise, but also actor to actor, and man to man, he was my most valuable ally to me.
We were doing the sort of scene where I die, and Viggo's sat, you know, laid over me and talking to me, and we sort of did all my shots before lunch, and then we just said like, all right, that's lunch. We come back to the death scene later. And then we came back after lunch and shot this, you know, all the coverage on Viggo. So it's quite strange that, because you still, you know, you just break off and have some potatoes and some food and stuff like that. Yeah. And you go back for your death scene again and die again.
Ian McKellen, when Ian arrived in New Zealand, I showed him a videotape I had with some interviews with Tolkien, and then obviously he got some of those audio tapes that you can get. And Ian based his performance of Gandalf on Tolkien. I mean, he was impersonating Tolkien.
It was looking at myself in the mirror as Gandalf, adjusting the stoop of the shoulders, and in doing that, feeling the voice deepen, getting raspier and a little more precise than perhaps my own is.
And really, in a sense, Tolkien does have, he does have a part in our movie, interpreted through Ian McKellen's performance of Gandalf.
Ian shared our trailer. So if you can imagine the 4 hobbits in a trailer with Ian McKellen.
I was sort of partitioned off.
That's strange that he wouldn't have his own.
Perhaps it was thought that Gandalf would want to talk to lesser beings.
There was an entrance at this end of the bus and an entrance at that end. And when Ian was in the chair, we always used the other entrance out of respect.
Because Elijah Wood in particular, and Dominic Monaghan liked to play music quite loudly early in the morning, and it wasn't always music that was to my taste.
So that became kind of difficult. You know, you'd kind of hear him sort of in the back of the trailer at one point, just in protesting and some sort of,
Why did they share our trailer? That's weird.
Can't really figure out what he's saying, but just protesting.
But there was no tension because of it.
It's my first opportunity to play with Ian McKellen, whom I've met, but I've never actually worked. I mean, people automatically assume that you know everybody in Britain, but we've never worked together. And that has been a tremendous joy for me, because he's the most generous of actors. And he works in a way that I like, which is a sort of ensemble.
Ian is a master actor. He has a technique or an approach to film acting which hadn't occurred to me before, in that each time he spoke the lines, it was a slightly different Bilbo that I was working with and reacting to.
Oh.
Because Ian's approach is to willfully make each take different. And so he provided what he called a kaleidoscope of Bilbo for Peter Jackson to eventually look through and shake into whatever configuration he wanted.
Christopher Lee is that he is a huge Tolkien fan. Probably one of the biggest Tolkien fans that I've ever met. He's read Lord of the Rings every year. He reads it once a year and has done so for decades.
Once a year for decades.
He actually met Professor Tolkien once. I never had to really talk to him about who and what Saruman was. He just absolutely knows his character.
That is amazing.
Inside out, and said to me something very sweet, that it was fulfilling a lifelong ambition of his to be involved in a film of Lord of the Rings, because he has been reading it for so long and waiting for the day that a film would be made, and dreaming that he might possibly be involved in it.
I think I've always rather underestimated Christopher Lee because of the films that he's made, and he'd be the first to say that not all of them are of the highest quality. But I have always been impressed by his physical and vocal authority, and I think he was very well cast.
Meeting Christopher
very
Lee
well cast for Saruman,
and watching him work on his character was a wonderful experience for me. I mean, I went on, I didn't have days off, but I would run from my set to watch what he was doing sometimes. Yeah,
I was going to say, I think they were shooting...
Go 0 to 60 now, boom, that's
7
you get
days
a quarter
a week,
mile,
right?
and that's all you get, and you better make us believe it. He knows so much about these stories, about this book, and cares so much about it, that he is like an emissary, from the mists, like the ghost of Tolkien on the set.
The famous phrase, Ashnas Gurbaturuk, Ashnas Grimpatur, Ashnas Rakaturuk, Akburzanishi Kimpatur. One ring to rule them all.
I think Liv Tyler said, this is just the weirdest set in the world, because, there's monsters walking around and wizards, and also, very small people and very tall people, and it was quite a weird thing at first, I suppose, but it became natural, it was your place of work.
I kind of feel bad for Liv, because, her character was such that she wasn't required all the time, and she would come to New Zealand for kind of stints. So she was sort of left out to a certain degree of the kind of camaraderie that we were able to gain and the experiences that we were able to gain as a fellowship, because we were there for basically the entire length of time.
She became our princess. We looked out for her, it was like, it was a boys' movie, and she came in and sort of gave us that element, that female touch. And
someone like Kate Blanchett or Liv Tyler would show up. It's a different quality, a different energy would come to the set.
I hadn't really thought about that.
It affected the way people behaved on the set and the way people
that it was
acted.
A male.
It was wonderful working with Kate.
Dominated.
The image that I most had in mind when I prepared for that scene is when I actually met Julie Christie, possibly the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. And it was that impact that I really wanted to try and convey in this scene with
You did convey that. He was so beside himself.
So it was very easy to do that with Kate, because Kate's got her own beauty and luminous quality herself.
I don't really have scenes with her, and that was a scene where we got to speak Elvish together, and it felt really effortless because she was so involved in it and so fluent with the language that it just it transports me when I see it, and it did at the time.
Having actors like Kate Blanchett and Liv Tyler and Hugo Weaving are able and have the power to portray non-humans ethereal. They have an elegance and a beauty.
A lot of our off-screen conversation was about being a theatre actor and plays that we'd done or wanted to do. A very congenial, like-minded person who has a wonderful sense of humour, and there's a lot of laughter around when Hugo's there.
Hugo just sort of assumed that role of Elrond with the greatest of ease, you know. I mean, I think he just breezed in and made him, you know, he had all the authority of Elrond.
One ring to rule them all, one ring to find them, one ring to bring them all, and in the darkness bind them in the land of Mordor, where the shadows lie.
We had these scale doubles on the movie that were short people to represent the hobbits for the wide shots.
It's Kieran's birthday, what was it, on Tuesday?
Tuesday,
On
yeah.
Tuesday, it was Kieran's birthday. Look at the chiseled, the etched, the years of experience found on Kieran's face. And later you'll be able to see him wearing all of our faces.
Kieran was the lord of the scale doubles.
The sergeant, you know, the ringleader, the disciplinarian, and he ran a very tight ship.
Kieran, I hear they're going to set you on fire. How do you feel about that?
If it happens, I'll be really happy to do it.
We had to have a very intimate relationship with these people. They had to become us in miniature form, you know.
We had a double for Gimli named Brett, who did all of Gimli's scale work and a lot of his stunt work as well.
4'9.5". Also, I'm a black belt in the martial art.
Sean Astin's scale double, an Indian guy called BK, speaks with a very strong Indian accent. Kind of talks like that. Hello, how are you doing today? Nice to see you.
He loves red wine and loves chess.
You like red? I've got red wine. Yes, man.
Fantastic. And he would play. He's awesome at chess.
So he'd be dressed as Sam with a mask of my face. So it was like I was playing a miniature version of myself who was better than me at chess.
Him and Sean would go at it. He'd kick Sean's ass every time.
I'd take his bishop, and then he'd come and he'd try to take my king, and I'd take his king, and they'd run around and laugh and stuff. Him and Viggo were an amazing team together. They were very funny, and they got on very well.
You can't see the sun and moon.
This day we went fishing, and he caught a fish, and I'm going to cook the fish tonight. And I went into the kitchen. BK screaming orders, you know. Open oven and cook rice and get colander and bring me knife and bring me fork. Viggo's running around going, okay, all right. You know, getting in trouble.
And we sit down, and we've had to clean up his mess and prepare the fish. And we're complimenting him, and rightly so, on his excellent curry. And you know, and he's saying, I know. Yes, it was quite good. And like that. And then I said, what do you think of the fish? And he says, it's okay. You know, like, it's not how I would have made it. And I said, well, how would you have made it? I would have made fish curry. I said, well, of course.
How wonderful to be a part of this cast.
Most of it, not together, but we lived in the same city for 15, 16 months, traveling together, late nights together, long hours together, cold weather, everything, all of these elements. And we were doing it together as a force. And in that way, the fellowship became a reality.
Right.
And it just completely
I didn't think about that. The
changed
fellowship became a reality.
who I was as a person and where I was going. You know? And simply for that fact alone, it's been the most rewarding thing that's happened in my life. You get to, you know, see and touch and smell and feel the energy of at least 100 people, but more like 800 people over the course of 15 months in a way that, you know, in most of human life, you don't have that kind of closeness with people.
You know, people got crabby, there were bad days and stuff for everybody, and bad periods, but there was always a kind of a support system, you know, mostly unspoken, it was just there.
Lifelong friends. There's not one member of the fellowship that I don't think I'll know for the rest of my life.
Those friendships that are so important to the story as well were a reality, and a reality because of what we had to go through together.
Oh, that was wonderful. Just wonderful. Okay, so next time we're going to see A Day in the Life of a Hobbit. This is on disc 2. Number 3, so good, so entertaining. I can't even wait to see that, A Day in the Life of a Hobbit. What I'm going to do is, because it's so long, is just break it up into and do it as many as I can in the time frame that I have, and then come back to it later and just kind of put all the little videos together into an edited form for YouTube, and we'll see how that works. Okay, but thank you so much for joining me. Like I said, I don't know how entertaining this is for you guys to watch, because it's not like a typical reaction video, because I'm just pretty much being engrossed with all of this information about behind the scenes, but I am really loving every minute of it. If you just want to watch me smile and you want to smile along with me, because it's so captivating and it's so heartwarming, right? To just journey behind the scenes of Middle Earth in this manner. I didn't expect to feel this enamored with what is happening, but they're doing such a great job of putting this on screen like this. I mean, you know, considering just the project of this behind the scenes documentary itself, documenting everything in the way that they did, and then putting it together in video form in a way that is very cohesive and that we can follow along with, and you know, it just makes sense, and you still feel like you're part of Middle Earth. Like they did a really amazing job of bringing this to life. So anyway, I'm not going to keep you too long. Thank you so much for joining me. I do appreciate it. And until next time, let's flow.